What up? Coming at you live, Radix Nation, for this week's Perspective, where we highlight top performers and we tell your stories. Man, we have some fun stories to share a little bit later on in the podcast, but wanted to start with just a couple housekeeping items. First things first, this time of year, it's important to do a roster check. This was a thought that was given by Stetson Banks in our leadership meeting, but it's important to go look at your roster. It's important to go look at each person as an individual and figure out where they're at. Hold monthly interviews. Go figure out where they're at in their process and their learning curve, what they're looking for in the future, where they're at in their current role, what they need to progress. It's important to do a roster check. So thank you, Stetson, for that advice. And my hope is that each manager will take that seriously. And in that process, if you are wanting and have a manager approval to be able to go move into the self-gen part of the job, you can request the self-gen training from Become Training at radixsales.com. Again, your managers need to assist you or be CC'd and approve that so that you can get access to that training. Guys, holy cow, another massive week, 190 accounts, an incredible week. All I have to say is #must be Mamba. Some incredible matchup took place this last week. I'm excited to dive into some of those, but I've got to give a couple shout outs to some matchups that were just absolutely crazy. We had guys just watching with popcorn. So that McCray Foster Preston Erickson matchup was unbelievable. Preston Erickson with a massive 6 spot, 12 on the week. That dude is a competitor and he is competing all out. Congrats on a massive week, Preston. Also wanted to shout out the Derek Marlowe Solar Greg matchup. That was a brawl all the way through Saturday night. Congrats, Derek, on an unbelievable run in the tournament so far. And congrats, Greg, for taking that win. I want to talk a little bit about the numbers, and as we dive into them, something that we're noticing. Guys, competition really matters. If we go look at the top teams, if we go look at the top performers, both in the lead rep category and the closers, the guys that are at the top are the guys that are competing right now. And so the more you get your team bought into those competitions, the higher production will be without a doubt. So with that in mind, it's important to think about July. It's crucial that you start assembling your driven teams. So driven is a car group incentive. So teams of 4 or 5 will compete against other teams across the company of 4 or 5. So assemble your team. Figure out the right combination to go get a lethal team in place. That team will win a trip to Las Vegas with Dave and I, where we'll spoil you. You'll get to race exotic cars around the Las Vegas Speedway. It's an incredible tournament, and someone from that Tribus group has won it every year. They've definitely got a target on their backs, and watch out because they will put together some incredible teams and probably are the teams to beat. So keep an eye out for some of the rules and regulations that come, but it's important to, if you want to have a massive July, get your teams lined up for driven. Let's start out with the lead reps. Our top lead reps this last week, we had Danny Fiaiki with 7, Fred Brantley with 6, Brian Harmon with 5, Carson Scott. I've got a little bit more about him later on, but congrats to Carson Scott with 5, and then Brandon Ellis also with 5. I believe Brandon Ellis is 17 or 18 years old and had 5 last week. Incredible job, Brandon. Closers. Again, Preston Erickson, congrats on an incredible week. 12, our top closer this last week. Tate Foster with 10, Trevin Facer with 9, Greg Osborne with 7, and McCray Foster with 7. Okay, top offices. Man, this group has made it on top a few times, and I'm proud to see him on top again. Team Messor with 22, Team Impact, Davis with 20, Prolific. Love to see this New Mexico group. They're starting to catch stride with 18, Team Lux with 15, and rounding out our top 5, we had Invictus with 15. Time to jump into some recognition. I texted out to the managers and the regionals, and I wanted to know which stories were worth highlighting. It's one of my favorite parts of this podcast is just highlighting sometimes the things that go unseen and the efforts that are there. So you'll have to excuse if this podcast goes a little bit long, but we really wanted to jump into some recognitions. So The first guys wanted to recognize was Jace Hansen and Caleb Call. So Caleb Call had a matchup that he was trying to win, and he didn't have a deal, and he knew he needed a deal. All of the guys had gotten off, and he wanted to keep going. He got a text from his manager, Jace Hansen, that said, dude, let's go get you a deal. They started working together, got the lead at like 8:15 or 8:20 at night, and Jace was able to go lock it down. So wanted to highlight Jace for being an incredible manager and taking the success of Caleb seriously. And Caleb, congrats on an incredible round. That's the wrestler mentality coming out of Caleb Call. So congrats to you guys. Wanted to highlight a similar story with Fred Brantley and Quentin Cahill. So Fred was up in the Mamba, needed a couple deals to advance, had some appointments that were there, and had confirmed all of them and wasn't quite having the success that he wanted. But Q pushed hard for him, got into a late night deal, and got it for him, but he was still down by one. And so went back to one of Fred's old leads and pushed hard to get in the deal and was able to secure a deal for Fred Brantley to help him get through the round. So congrats to those guys and to Team Redemption. Team Impact, we have Diego, Sam, and Bree, and Caden. Tate, McCray, and Ammon just wanted to highlight the incredible work ethic and the mindset that these lead reps have. They've had each other's backs. They are pushing hard to be able to go make sure that the closers and everybody involved with Mamba is progressing and really trying to take advantage of those wildcard spots. So congrats to you guys. Wanted to highlight Trevin Facer and Carson Scott. Both had their biggest weeks of the summer out with Mesor, leading the way with those guys being the top team. Carson Scott has been extremely diligent in learning and had more sales last week than he had through the rest of the summer with his 5 spot. So wanted to highlight Carson with that massive performance, and also Trevin Facer. Congrats, brother. Jonathan Flax and David Jimenez. Again, another lead rep closer duo, just doing everything that it takes to get to the next round. When I was talking with Caden and Dalton about this, they just said that the team is rallying around those guys and they're going to be dangerous this round. So David's got Tate Foster in the Mamba. Watch out for our bracketology on these matchups later on, but really wanted to highlight Jonathan Flax and David Jimenez. And then the last two is Evian Peterson. I believe I'm saying this right. If not, sorry, man. And Sebastian Ruiz. These guys, this is their second full week in solar, and they each had 3 accounts last week. Just absolutely trusting the process and putting in the hours. Both Jacob Shreve and Tate Moser wanted to tell you guys congratulations and keep up the good work. So I love the recognition. The reality is there's a lot of names that we didn't mention. My goal is to be able to gather these stories and be able to recognize you guys for your efforts. There's a lot of unseen sacrifices and stories that happen around the company, and we do that all with the attitude of gratitude. We're extremely grateful for the sacrifices that take place and the wins that you guys are able to go find personally each week to go have such an incredible week that we did this last week. 190 accounts, incredible week. We're pacing for the 750 to 850 accounts in June, which would be an incredible June. I want to end with a quick leadership thought. And I'm going to read a quote and then I'll share a couple thoughts on it. But it's if you want to be a good leader, learn to be a good follower. As I have seen in my career, guys that have progressed into amazing leaders, they've been incredible followers in the past. So if you're asking yourself, what does it mean to be a good follower? I remember very specifically, I had a leader in my organization that came and called a meeting with me and said, what are your goals? What are the things that you would like to succeed in this year? And what way can I participate in those wins for you? I know that if we're aligned and I'm helping you succeed, that you'll help me succeed. And that kid has gone on to be an incredible leader in our business. And so if you're sitting there wondering, how can I go be a good leader? My suggestion is call that same meeting. Sit down with your leaders and ask them what their goals are. They've been so focused on helping each one of you hit your goals that it's such a breath of fresh air to have people in your organization that you're serving really care about your goals also. So if you want to be a good leader, learn to be a good follower. Guys, that's it for this week's podcast. We love you guys. Let's go finish out the Mamba strong. Let's get ready for Driven. Let's go finish the month extremely strong. Love you guys. Mamba out.